You're on the fan.
Hey, Mike and the Pooch, what's up?
Hello, Billy.
Hello, Bill.
Listen, a couple of things. Do me a favor, say goodbye to me, too, before you cut me off, too.
All right, Bill, I promise tonight.
All right, couple of things.
Goodbye, Bill.
Mike and the Mad Dog from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sports Radio 66, WFAN, New York.
Monday, Late Show with David Letterman premieres on CBS.
New time, new channel, and I've got my fingers crossed. New underthings.
It's the same Dave at a better time on a new station.
I can't begin to tell you how excited I am. But then again, it could be the vending machine coffee.
Be there when the curtain goes up. Monday.
Premiering Monday on WCBS Channel 2 at 11:35 p.m.
Howie Rose on Sports Radio 66. The Fan, WFAN.
It's tall and he is thin. It is 12:45, 718-937-6666. Howie Rose with you for Bagels and Baseball until 1. Ed Coleman to follow, leading towards the Mets and the Colorado Rockies on the Fan on Banner Day at Shea Stadium. And, again, you want to set your tape recorders. We'll replay Mickey Mantle hitting number 535 off of Denny McLain. The Gift is coming up just before 1 o'clock. But let's just take the people who are holding the longest here. We'll go right down the line. John in Queens, how you doing?
Yes, how's everything? Howie, how you feeling?
All right, John, how are you feeling?
Fine, thank you. I just have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know, have you heard anything as far as the Yankees making any late day pickups before the deadline as far as waiver warning?
Well, nothing new. I mean, I've been throwing out Frank Tanana's name just for fun. Understand, by the way, Tanana has cleared waivers. There were reports earlier, and I even put a little fuel on that one because it had been told to me that Frank Tanana had been claimed by the Yankees, but in talking to some Met people on Wednesday, I was told in no uncertain terms by an unimpeachable source, Frank Tanana has cleared waivers, as interestingly enough has Eddie Murray. But as far as the Yankees doing anything either for Tanana or another pitcher, I think it's a little clouded now because of the emergence, even for the one game, of Sterling Hitchcock and the fact that they hope Kamenicki will be able to go on Tuesday, but don't rule out the possibility either of the Yankees doing something by the 31st.
And also, I'd like to make a comment. I don't know if you listened to the Fan last night. There was a guy who called up and said, he was talking about Sterling Hitchcock and Melito Perez.
Right.
And right now, I don't know why, but maybe because the American League hasn't seen Sterling Hitchcock a lot, I think I'd stay with him in the rotation. See how he does, because his last outing really wasn't that bad.
Well, listen, he certainly has earned another start. I don't subscribe this business about how it would be the ultimate insult to Melito Perez if you were to take him out of the rotation. I ain't worried about insulting anybody. Their feelings, nothing else, when you got a month to go and you're fighting for a pennant. So, if... But remember that right now Buck Showalter isn't exactly in love with Domingo John either. So I don't know that, with Kamenicki's physical situation still somewhat questionable, even though they hope to have him Tuesday, they'll know more definitively today, that you're just going to take Melito Perez and move him aside. However, the way he's pitched is inconsistent, really as badly as he's pitched, save for those two starts against Boston and Texas. You could certainly make a case for the Yankees doing better than Melito Perez in the rotation right now. Eli in Westchester. Good morning, sir, or good afternoon, anyway.
Howie, I'm very upset. How are you?
Well, there's an upset. I could take that to Vegas and become a rich man, couldn't I?
Howie, I wonder what Hank Aaron would say what do you mean,
you got connections, call him up and ask him.
Oh, what the media would have said had he been given a gift like Mickey Mantle was given a home run like McLain served up to him.
Geez, now, don't be pouring any salt. I mean, that's 25 years ago, and it's fun. It's harmless.
It bugs me because you want to know something. We have two sets of standards here. And you want to know something? I found myself yesterday rooting for the Panamanian Little League team. and it upset me because you want to know something? We got
How far are you going to take this?
No, we got a bunch of sore losers here in this country. The fact is that Panama will take this, and they will take this loss, and they will take it in good stride. Had we, the United States, America, had we lost, we would be checking everyone's birth certificate and going down the line.
Well, we didn't do that every year that the Taiwan team or the Far Easterners won. I mean, last year you had some 31-year-old little leaguers playing for Philippine. What do you want to do?
Well, the big kid, he looks like he should be shaving any minute.
You talk about Sean Burrows.
Yeah, Burrows.
I'll say, hey, let me tell you something. I agree with you there. I'd check his birth certificate, too. That kid looks like, at the very least, Greg Luzinski Jr. Not Ryan Luzinski. That's a Greg Luzinski in waiting.
You're a tough guy. Last thing but not least, again, with all due respect to our media, I think the fiasco that we've had...
You don't respect our media, but go ahead.
I think the fiasco we've had here with Coleman and Saberhagen and Eddie Murray, I think it's become quite evident unless we have more black, African-American sports writers in the media, we're going to have a double standards here in New York. And until we do integrate this medium, and I love the media, even you, Howie, I think we have to integrate it if we're going to have fairness.
But now, wait a minute. So you're claiming again that Vince Coleman has been treated unfairly?
I think he's been treated, yes, unfairly if you compare it to Saberhagen, unfairly if you compare it to other guys who've done dumb things. I mean, baseball players have been known not to be brain surgeons. And they do dumb things.
Well, you're a football player. Since when did they graduate with, degrees in medicine? And
you know how to hurt a guy.
But, well, no, wait. See, the thing with the acts were different. That malicious in their intent, you can draw the comparison no matter whether Coleman or Saberhagen said that they were or weren't trying to hurt anybody. Unfortunately, the difference between Coleman and Saberhagen isn't so much in the act, isn't so much how it's been received, but in the history. Coleman, for 2.5 years, has had incident after incident, and you know, Eli, that the Mets would have traded him in a heartbeat last winter if somebody would have taken him. This just represented, in effect, the last straw and was the latest entry on a long rap sheet and gave them the final motivation to just sever him from the roster. You could understand that.
I can understand it, but I don't agree with it. Again, a rap sheet, that sounds like someone that did a lot of really felons and bad things. He hasn't done that. He's been surly. He's been hard to deal with as far as the media is concerned. But as far as a bad guy...
I'm not talking about the media at all. I mean the on-field incidents with Coleman and with Cubbage and then Jeff Torborg.
Wait a minute. We don't know that those guys didn't contribute to those things. Cubbage has had other run-ins with other players, and so has... And I don't like the way he treated Coleman when he was out there on the mound as well. So we can't blame all of this to Coleman. Coleman is the type of guy that doesn't take anything off of anyone. But I don't think that should be held against him. And if you look at Eddie Murray, what has he done?
Well, here's the thing with Eddie Murray is that, and I don't know exactly how to equate this, having not been in the locker room on a daily basis over the last year or two as I was before, but I'll give you an example of an observation a couple of people made to me within the last 2 weeks, in fact, about Bobby Bonilla. All right? And, if we can, I totally agree with the thinking that says, as harshly as we criticized Bonilla for lying last year, then Brett Saberhagen deserved the exact same degree and volume of criticism, and that's just an inescapable fact. That is the truth. But what I've also been told is that there have been a couple of occasions on which reporters have been around Bobby Bonilla, who was in very close proximity to Eddie Murray, who has this vendetta against the news media, so much so that he almost dictates from afar policy for some players on this team. So you would think. Anyway, a couple of reporters talking to Bonilla. His mood, his demeanor with them is relatively curt, not cold, but somewhat standoffish while in Murray's presence. Now Murray gets up, goes into the shower or leaves or whatever he does, and Bonilla is basically by himself with these reporters. And all of a sudden, Bobby is more affable, he's more comfortable, and it is an inescapable fact that Eddie Murray has been, over the 2 years he's been here, sort of a silent Pied Piper in getting a lot of the players to kind of follow him in this crusade, if you will, against the writers and broadcasters. And when he is extracted from that clubhouse, the chemistry will probably improve an appreciable degree. That's the rap against Eddie Murray, not what he's done on the field.
Well, I still say that it's a vendetta that the New York media holds against him. And you want to know...
Nobody created a vendetta but him.
But it spreads. No other team... You can't tell me that he couldn't help the Giants or some other team. But I think because of the media, and I go along with the players, because of the media in New York, they have to be very cautious.
All right, Eli, thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
7 minutes before 1 o'clock, and I am... Listen, just as shocked as anybody. When you take a look at Eddie Murray, he's driven in, 79, 80 runs. You got a month of the season left. Gene Lamont told me on the air last week the White Sox were looking for a designated hitter. And there were rumors about Eddie Murray going to Chicago. And the same person who told me that both Tanana and Murray had cleared waivers this week also told me in no uncertain terms that as of that day, no conversations had been held between the Mets and the Chicago White Sox. Murray had heard the rumor, asked management about it. Management said there's nothing to it as of yet. 6 minutes before 1 o'clock. Set your tape recorders if you want to hear that rebroadcast of Mickey Mantle hitting number 535, courtesy of Denny McLain 25 years ago. That's coming up after this.
This summer, the heat is on. Cool off anytime with the Fan. Sports Radio 66, WFAN New York.
New York.
The sports leader, Sports Radio 66, the Fan, WFAN.
We're just about 2 minutes before 1 o'clock. Eddie Coleman coming up next. But as promised, and just to kind of tie the whole thing together, last week on our Upper Deck Heroes of Baseball segment, we chatted with former Detroit Tiger pitcher Denny McLain. He won 31 games 25 years ago. And he also served up Mickey Mantle's 535th lifetime home run, which put him one ahead of Jimmie Foxx into third place all time. And, of course, McLain served that one up for him. Everybody knows it. We joked about it last week. McLain was a little reluctant to flat-out admit it. But anyway, that inspired a listener by the name of Ron Sachs to mail to us a copy of the audio tape of that entire incident. And so, courtesy of Ron Sachs out of Staten Island, here's how it sounded with Frank Messer and Phil Rizzuto 25 years ago.
McLain said, he said to Mick, I think he said it. I'm going to lay one right in for you. Hit it. And sometimes when you know what's coming, it's tough to hit it. They're all grinning, Mickey. McLain and order a moment ago. Rather, the catcher Price. Oh, there it is, and there it goes. It's a fly ball. Get it! Oh, you got to give that McLain some credit. I want to tell you. He's grinning a mile wide. Boy, I tell you, you think these ball players don't have heart, Frank. And look, Mickey nodding to him, thanking him. Boy, I said, I've never seen anything like this in my life. Mantle has now gone ahead of Jimmie Foxx with 535 home runs. And now McLain is Pepitone says, lay one in for me, and McLain shakes his hand at him and says, no, sir.
And as legend has it, Joe Pepitone dusted on the first pitch by Denny McLain. So much for charity. And thanks again to Ron Sachs of Staten Island who came up with that audio. And thanks again to Steve Cohen and Dove Kramer. We'll take Bagels and Baseball and move it to Saturdays beginning next week after the Mets-Cubs, which starts at 2:20, and before the Giants and Cardinals at 7:50. But tomorrow night, I'll see you beginning at 6 o'clock right here on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Have a good day.
Sports Radio 66, the Fan, WFAN.
It's Mike Lupica on the Fan, broadcasting live from the National Tennis Center in Flushing Meadows from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. during the U.S. Open, and it starts tomorrow. It's another midday exclusive of Sports Radio 66, WFAN New York. WFAN 2020 Sports.
It's 1 o'clock. I'm Vince DeLisi. Yankees try and find a win in Cleveland today. Indians find a way to have those big innings against the Yankees. They did so yesterday. Danny Tartable and company have lots of respect for the power of the tribe.
I think that they have one of the finer hitting ball clubs in the league, and I think that the day that they get some consistent pitching, they're going to be a true contending ball club. Their hitting is legitimate.
Jim Abbott going for the Yankees today. Mets wrap up their series with Colorado. Frank Tanana pitching for the Mets. 2:35 pregame right here on the Fan. Nolan Ryan is back on the DL with a strained rib cage. Nolan's third stint on the disabled list this year. Braves start the day 4 behind the Giants in the National League West. John Sherholtz on the Fan with Howie Rose today. Denies the Martinez deal was a defensive move.
Quite frankly, we were interested in acquiring Dennis so that he would be an additional starter for us. So we had it figured he would get at least 5 starts. And Bobby Cox and I talked in San Francisco that based on Bobby's admiration for Dennis and the way he pitches, he likely would have started more than that.
Now, the Giants, by the way, had a rare Saturday off yesterday. We'll be talking football next. Fan 2020 Sports, sponsored by Mobile. WFAN 2020 Sports Time 1:02. Giants lost their final preseason NFL game last night to the Dolphins. Phil Simms stating the obvious.
The last 3 times having the ball, we had a chance to move it to do something, and we just didn't get enough out of it. It was holding penalties at first. Them not scoring before the half was kind of disappointing because we made a lot of plays to get down there, and we were really in good rhythm, and then not to score was bad, and then, the interception was bad, too.
Now the Giants do it for real next Sunday. They'll be in Chicago. It'll be 18th-ranked Southern Cal against number 20 North Carolina tonight in the 4th annual Disneyland Pigskin Classic in Anaheim. Trojans welcome back Coach John Robinson to the sidelines, where he compiled a 64-14-2 record in the mid-'70s and early '80s for USC before leaving to take over as head coach of the Los Angeles Rams for 9 years. Bad news for the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame. Freshman signal caller Ron Powell has suffered a fractured right collarbone in their final preseason scrimmage of the year. He'll be lost for maybe the entire year. He was one of the most sought-after quarterbacks in the country. Notre Dame won him, and he was actually going to battle for the starting job, but that's all moot right now. In tennis, 5th seed Michael Chang and Marc Rosé will square off in the championship match of the Hamlet Cup tennis tournament on the island. Chang eliminated top-ranked Stefan Edberg in the semis, while Rosé surprised number 7 seed Goran Ivanisevic. WFAN reminds you drinking and driving are a deadly combination. Half of all traffic fatalities are alcohol-related. So remember this summer, don't drink and drive. Arrive alive. Here's the WFAN weather forecast. Mostly sunny this afternoon. Much less humid and cooler. Highs in the mid-80s. Tonight, partly cloudy, low in the upper 60s. And then tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds. Highs 80 to 85. Current Central Park temperature 84 degrees. And that's what's happening. I'm Vince DeLisi with 2020 Sports on WFAN, the flagship station for New York Jets football.
Sports Radio 66, the Fan, WFAN, New York.
104 on the Fan here on this Sunday afternoon. How you doing, folks? I'm Ed Coleman. I'll take you up until Mets pregame time at 1:30. And then we'll have Banner Day. Actually, 2:30. It's only 104 now. 2:30, that is. Banner Day, of course, from Shea Stadium today as the Mets and Rockies will finish up their series over there. The Yankees will get underway in just a short little while at Cleveland's Municipal Stadium. Jim Abbott and Tom Kramer, as Kramer moves back into the starting rotation. He was put back in the bullpen, but now with the changes of pitching coaches with the Cleveland Indians, he is back in the starting rotation. So the Yankees will see a right-hander, and thus the left-handed lineup will be in there today. But one point about this, and I'll discuss this a little bit further with Suzyn when she comes on. She'll join us just after 1:20 or so, and I want to get your thoughts on this, too. You know what? It is kind of deceiving when you look at the Yankee averages and you see Deion James hitting, 340 or so, sitting atop the Yankee roster. Paul O'Neill right behind him at 313 or thereabouts. Wade Boggs at about 313 or so as well. What makes people think that simply because they are hitting for those averages, that if they hit against left-handers, they're going to do just the same? Now, Wade Boggs would be a different story. I would play Boggs every day. I'm sorry. The guy has done it before. Has he been involved in pennant races? Yeah, he has. And has he done it? Is he that good of a hitter to do it from both sides of the plate, or face righties and lefties, I should say? Yeah, he is. He simply is. And he should be out there every day. Deion James, well, I think part of the reason Deion James' hefty average is as hefty as it is because of the simple fact that he's faced mainly right-handed pitching. And Paul O'Neill, well, that's one where you can go either way, I think. I might give it a shot, certainly, because I think it's going to help you defensively, no question about that. And it's something that I certainly would toy with. But, the simple fact, cut and dry, just because you look at these guys' averages and you see them sitting atop, the Yankees at this point in time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go out there and hit left-handed pitching just like they've hit right-handed pitching. I mean, you'll see them today with a right-hander on the mound, but, as a day-in, day-out business, as we go down the stretch, I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do. That's something Buck is going to have to mull over in his mind. I'm sure he has as well, and maybe you'll see him more against left-handed pitching. Maybe you will. But it doesn't guarantee success. I will tell you that. Yankees need this game today because they are playing with fire with Toronto and Seattle. Toronto has lost 3 in a row out there. and they have been crushers the last two nights. A 6-0 lead, and they fall 7-6. They got a great game out of Jack Morris last night, and a 1-0 lead late in the game, and then they lose that one 2-1. And the Yankees have fallen the last 2 days. Their ace, Jimmy Key, going down yesterday, so they're playing with fire. Can't expect to get another loss in Cleveland and still remain in first place with Toronto. All right, Suzyn is going to join us at about 1:20 or thereabouts this afternoon. Our phone number here, 937-6666, 718, your area code. And we'll take some phone calls up until 2:30 today, starting in just a few minutes here on The Fan. I'm Ed Coleman with you till Mets pregame on The Fan. Banner Day at Shea Stadium. It'll be interesting to see the banners out there today after this horrible Mets season, which will soon be over, folks. Back after this.
We're the only radio station that puts sports in our name. We're Sports Radio 66, WFAN New York.
Monday, Late Show with David Letterman premieres on CBS.
New time, new channel, and I've got my fingers crossed. New under things.
It's the same Dave at a better time on a new station.
I can't begin to tell you how excited I am. But then again, it could be the vending machine coffee.
Be there when the curtain goes up. Monday.
Premiering Monday on WCBS Channel 2 at 11:35 p.m.
Taste as fresh as a nice mountain stream. Cool and light like a white water dream. You keep on moving in the right direction. You keep searching for natural perfection.
For the best of the Rockies, Silver Bullet Smooth, Coors Light, the right beer now.
Just because you're out of the office doesn't mean you have to be out of touch. With cellular service from 9X Mobile Communications, you're only a phone call away. To sign up for 9X cellular service, call 1-800-443-BELL.
Did you ever face a shelf full of pain-relieving rubs and wonder which one would really work for you? Next time, reach for extra strength. Mentholatum Deep Heating has just what you want. No nonsense, no gimmicks, just serious pain relief for backache, sore muscles, even arthritis. You just rub it on. Its penetrating warmth quickly restores flexibility to sore, stiff joints. Mentholatum Deep Heating is the name people have trusted for a long time for one simple reason. It's the one that works. Mentholatum Deep Heating. Use only as directed.
So me and Jake are having a party at the beach house. We're also having a heat wave. The sun's beating down, our friends are passing out. So we stir up a pitcher of Lipton iced tea mix, pass it around, and then... that brisk tea hits us. So crisp, so clean, so thirst-quenching. Yeah, that's Lipton, all right, because only Lipton is the brisk iced tea mix in 5 delicious fruit flavors. Lipton tea, the brisk brings out the
Sports Radio 66, WFAN.
111 on the Fan, 937-6666, your phone number. I'm Ed Coleman, here till 2:30 today, Mets pregame. Couple of other things to mention today. Talked about the Blue Jays losing their second tough game in a row, 2 in the 8th for Seattle last night. They guarded a 1-0 lead all the way, and Jack Morris, who has not pitched well for them of late, pitched beautifully last night. 7 innings, 3 hits, walked 3 and struck out 4, but Danny Cox got tagged with the loss last night. Seattle beats them again, the 5th time they have done that in the last 6 games, and they keep the Yankees tied for first in the American League East. But how about the Tigers? Tigers are red hot. Everybody had just, they had kind of put the Yankees and Toronto on one page and maybe Baltimore and Boston on another and just simply written off the Detroit Tigers. Well, the Tigers have won 7 in a row and 9 out of their last 10, and they are 4 games back in third. Boston 4.5 back. They've won the last 2 against Kansas City, and that's a great matchup today in KC. David Cohn and Danny Darwin going at it. And then Baltimore is 5.5 back. They've started to hit the skids, and I think if they don't turn things around on this road trip, they're in Texas today, you can kind of write them off. But how about the Tigers, who everybody had written off, and they're 70-61 right now and making a great comeback right now. A couple of other things. We'll watch the Giants later on this afternoon. Actually, it is tonight. Atlanta will play at 1:10. They'll get started. Actually, they're probably underway now at Fulton County Stadium. Tommy Glavine against Greg Hibbert against the Cubs there. So the Giants will know when they take the field today against Florida, and they will know what Atlanta has done. And they have Solomon Torres going today. The kid that Yankee fans, I guess, will be their property at some point in time for the Brian Sabian move to the Giants. But Solomon Torres will make his Major League debut against Chris Hammond, a guy who had a great first half for Florida but has really struggled in the second half. But the Giants will know what Atlanta has done already, as Atlanta sits 4 games back in the National League West. Quick football thing, and if you do want to talk some football, we can do that as well. Certainly going into the season, and it struck me that next Sunday at this time, I'll be sitting in here. Actually, we'll be doing some football and the NFL in action next Sunday, Labor Day Sunday, as the NFL season gets underway. And could the Giants and Jets have had worse preps in their final exhibition game than they had this weekend? The Jets against the Redskins and the Giants last night against the Dolphins. Giants were just awful last night. Mistakes all over the place, 90 yards in penalties, 11 penalties all told. End zone interception by Phil Simms, and probably their only bright spot was Dave Brown, who did play very well for the Giants, but the kind of mistakes you don't want to see in your final exhibition game. The first 3, fine. You know, you're going to look at just about your entire roster in the first 2. You kind of cut that down a little bit because there are cuts between the second and the third game, and so you take a longer look at people then. But the fourth game is really when you want to get in gear and you want to get yourself ready and set for the opener, which is a week away. And could the Giants and Jets have worse preparation than they had in these 2 games over the weekend? I don't think so. 937-6666. Get a couple phone calls in here, and we go to Bill in New York City right now. Billy, how are you?
How are you, Ed?
I'm fine.
On this business you were talking about the Yankees platooning.
Yes.
I think you're essentially right. I mean, you know, Buck has had a lot of these lefty hitters in against lefties from time to time.
Yeah, he has.
But you have to look at specific situations. I mean, the other day you had a day game after a night game, and Boggs has had a thumb problem. You know, his back tends to flare up now and then. I mean, and he's 35 years old. I mean, I think you have to take opportunities to sit him in those situations.
I would agree, and you probably should do that with Mattingly occasionally, just to have him fresh down the stretch.
That's right. I think he did more of that when Moss was around. Occasionally you would see Moss at first base on day games after night games and Mattingly DHing.
Bill, I come to you with this, and I'm speaking in generalities, really. When I look at these 3 guys, all right, James, O'Neill, and Boggs, I think that Boggs could play against righties, lefties down the stretch if you give him some rest occasionally to keep him fresh.
Right.
O'Neill is a case where I could go either way. Because of his defense, I could go either way. James, I think, is another story. See, I think that's where people say, hey, the guy's hitting almost 350, you know, give him a shot. Well, I think that there's a reason that he's hitting that high.
That's right. He's only been playing against righties. Plus, he aside from his batting average, he really contributes nothing else to the team. He can't run. He can't throw.
He's made a couple of good no, I shouldn't say good. He's made a couple of spectacular catches this year.
Spectacular catches that probably would have looked pretty routine if you had a good fielder out there.
That's possible.
And he's not. You know, he's certainly not an asset in the field, and I think he's close to being a liability. And that, you know, I've seen games where he's contributed like an RBI or 2, and then gives back the runs with a weak throw or missing a ball in the gap. So I think a player like that is sort of, you have to question his value as a starter, certainly. And then O'Neill, I think this year is still batting about 225 against lefties. Now, I grant you, there might be a junk ball lefty who's not going to have him bailing out, where you want him in there, as you say, especially to add his defense.
Yeah.
But I think the Yankees are a club in general, if I may say, who they obviously lack speed, but they're also a team who have far too many DHs crowding the roster. Deion James,
Leyritz,
Tartable. Of course, Tartable's a great hitter, but he's pretty much a DH.
Matt Noakes.
Right. And I really think as they look into September in terms of who they're going to call up and into next year, you know, they have to get a more balanced attack like the Blue Jays. They are far too reliant on the big inning the 3-run homer. They, in games where they look flat, they don't have the ability to sort of make things happen, manufacture runs, open up holes in the infield, distract the pitcher. They just can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, George has been a guy who has tended to go for these big-name DH types, like a typical ignorant fan who doesn't realize, as I heard Ken Griffey say the other day, that offense attracts fans, but defense wins pennants. And I think on the offensive side, speed is something that he doesn't understand. I mean, for example, when he got Spike Owen, I think any reasonable person now would acknowledge that Dave Silvestri isn't what we saw of him. He's not so bad in the field. Would have contributed much more to this team than Spike Owen. And I think over the winter, if I just may say, I think one thing they have to do is that Buck and Gene really have to make every effort to make sure that Steinbrenner has no input into personnel decisions.
Well, the way things have worked out, I think that's probably one decision that they may regret, having Spike Owen aboard. I know he's a guy that's been through this before, but his usefulness down the stretch, I just don't know. Bill, we got to run.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
118 on the Fan. We'll go to Larry in Jersey right now. Larry, how are you?
Yes, how you doing, Ed?
I'm fine.
How's everything?
Good.
A couple of quick questions. Have you heard anything about with the Red Sox transactions or anything before the deadline?
I kind of doubt they're going to have anybody come aboard at this point. I really do. I don't think they're going to add another pitcher. I think they're just hoping for Clemens down the stretch, and hopefully he can be the Clemens of old. Maybe you saw an indication of that the other night.
Oh, I hope I did. And one other quick question, because I realized the 2020's coming on.
Yes, indeed. Boy, you know the station well, huh?
I try. I'd like to know, do you think the Red Sox are in the driver's seat, so to speak, with the Tigers being hot as they are and the Blue Jays going into Detroit?
Well, it's a possibility. I wouldn't say they're in the driver's seat right now, being 4.5 games out. They're playing better. They've done a good job in Kansas City. They took the first 2. They have a tough guy to go up against today, but Darwin, listen, has been their best pitcher. There's no doubt. So I would not say they're in the driver's seat, though. They do have a pretty good schedule down the stretch. If they can hang in there, and Toronto keeps losing, and the Yankees oblige as well, it's a possibility.
Okay, thank you very much, and take care.
Thank you.
Right, bye-bye.
Well, everybody knows 2020 is coming up, isn't it?
That's right.
They must sense your presence in the room.
And it is a present.
Yes, it is.
Wait a second. I showered. Okay.
Well, what a great day today, huh?
Beautiful out
Could be at Jones Beach.
Yeah, could be amusement parks.
Could be anywhere.
Baseball game.
Live Playland, huh?
Yeah.
You thought about that, huh?
Thought about that. Thought about having you doing the 2020s.
No, I don't think so. It's Banner Day. I got to get over there for Banner Day at Shea.
Those should be interesting banners.
Yes, they should.
Do they censor them before they go on the field?
I think they have in the past, but most people are fairly positive. There are a couple of cynical ones here and there, and I'm sure there will be today.
I'm sure there will be. I'm positive. Very seriously, what kind of positive banners could we have today?
Wait till next year.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. 120 on the Fan. Time for the 2020 Sports Flash is brought to you by Hess Super Detergent Premium 93 Octane, and here with the high octane stuff is Vince DeLisi.
WFAN 2020 Sports.
Thank you, Eddie. Speaking of those banners, it is Banner Day at Shea today, Colorado and the Mets. So we have a 2:35 pregame for you here on the Fan. Frank Tanana going for the Mets. Tanana obviously not a great year, 6-12, 4.33 ERA. The Yankees, they try to salvage a split of the 4-game set at Cleveland today. The Yankees go with lefty Jim Abbott, while the Indians send Tommy Kramer to the mound. Abbott has lost his last 2 starts. He's only 2-7 in 13 road appearances, so he's had his problems on the road. Meanwhile, a couple of games going on in Major League Baseball right now. Top of the first, no score between the Cubs and Atlanta. And the bottom of the first, San Diego is leading the Pirates in the first of 2, 1-0. Most of the other games starting after 1:30 this afternoon. It's going to be number 18 Southern Cal against number 20 North Carolina tonight in the 4th annual Disneyland Pigskin Classic. 2 days, 2 college games in a row. Second of the college football season, obviously, tonight. Florida State started things off with a demolition of Kansas, 42-0 at the Meadowlands yesterday. In golf, Betsy King holds a 1-shot edge over Beth Daniel and Brandy Burton going into the final round of the Du Maurier Classic. 4 players tie for the lead entering the final round of the World Series of Golf. British Open champ Greg Norman, Nick Price, Dave Edwards, Jim Gallagher Jr. share the lead at 3 other under par. 4 other players, defending champ Craig Stadler, Steve Elkington, Fulton Allen, and David Frost, all within 1 shot. Bob Charles and DeWitt Weaver are tied for the lead as the Seniors Classic enters the final round in Birmingham. with reports every 20 minutes. I'm Vince DeLisi, WFAN 2020 Sports.
Imus in the morning. Sports all day. We're the Fan. Sports Radio 66, WFAN New York.
Sports Radio 66, the Fan, WFAN New York.
125 on the Fan, and fans, listen to Schaefer Beers. You can look it up during the Mets pregame show. It's brought to you by Schaefer and Schaefer Lights. We head to Cleveland right now with the Yankees and Indians. We'll wrap things up at Municipal Stadium in just about 10 minutes or so. Suzyn Waldman is there, of course, for the Fan. And good afternoon, Suzyn.
And good afternoon, Eddie. How are you?
I'm fine. What is that in the background?
That is a organ trying to sound like a bunch of trumpets, I guess. It's Jolly Rancher 1920 Championship Cap Day here at Cleveland Stadium.
Oh, very nice.
And all the lefties are back in the lineup, so they'll probably get some offense here. Jim Abbott on the mound against a guy who's been a reliever most of the year, Tommy Kramer.
Right.
A couple of
No,
things.
actually, he started a lot of games. He was put back in the bullpen,
He was put back in the bullpen, and oh, God, this is
I think Kramer has made 15 starts this year.
Well, he's 6-3. I'm not sure he's made 15 starts, but whatever it was, he was in the bullpen for a while until the pitching coach was fired, and then now he's back in the starting rotation. Now, to get to some Yankee pitching here, from what I can gather with our pregame talk with Showalter, this is what you're going to see next week. Kamenicki on Tuesday, Sterling Hitchcock on Wednesday, and Jimmy Key on Thursday. There's a lot of reasonings there, and Kamenicki is they're saying probably, but Kamenicki says he's going and he's fine, and that's that. One, if you start Cammy on Tuesday, you can pitch him again on Sunday, and you give him 2 starts at home, which is good.
Okay.
Melito will probably pitch either Friday or Saturday. You've got to give Sterling another shot. Chicago obviously does not do well against left-handed pitchers, and quite frankly, the kid deserves another start.
No, I think he does too.
And that this was, and I know that we went round and round about Showalter protecting Melito or whatever it is, but it's now August 29th, and there's not a lot of time left to protect somebody's ego. So unless something changes, and they won't say this definitively, and they're saying that, well, we're thinking about this, but the fact that it came up and the fact that they're saying probably and maybe means to me that Kamenicki's going Tuesday, Hitchcock's going Wednesday, and Jimmy Key will go on Thursday.
Has anyone gotten a chance to talk to Melito about that, being bumped down the line a little bit?
No, actually,
Okay.
he was it's a throw day today for him, and he declines to talk to reporters at a lot of venues. He doesn't like to talk when he does badly after a loss. And,
okay. All right.
At this point, leave him alone. It's pretty evident what's happening here. And listen, we're getting down to crunch time here. You don't have time to fool around here. Lou Piniella and the Seattle Mariners can only do so much.
Well, I know. That's and you're playing with fire. Like I told you yesterday, you cannot expect Seattle to keep coming back on Toronto, every day.
No, exactly. That's 2 days in a row. Once it was Mike Flowers, and who was that yesterday? Danny Cox threw that wild pitch?
Danny Cox.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Morris.